Number 10, an incest story. In 2014, 20-year-old Christopher Buckner and her half-brother 25-year-old Timothy Savoy were accused of performing incest 3 times in a church parking lot outside of Savannah, Georgia. They did so after watching the film adaptation of Nicholas Sparks' book, The Notebook. Apparently, the movie really got them heated up, and for those of you who aren't familiar with the film, it doesn't have a happy ending, and neither did these 2 siblings. After responding to a complaint of a prowler in the vicinity, police were alerted to the pair's actions early on a morning in August 2014. Deputies went to check the area after receiving a complaint at about 4:30 a.m. Deputies discovered that the 2 people were brother and sister and had just had intercourse in a Kenworth tractor-trailer parked at Countryside Baptist Church. The pair are being detained in the Effington County Jail on charges of incest, aggravated sodomy, and prowling. Number 9, mushrooms with Jesus. On a July morning in 2020, Owensboro police responded to the area of West 5th Street Road and Highway 1554 in regard to a naked guy racing down the road and striking passing vehicles. Upon arrival, dispatch informed the officers of an ongoing burglary at a nearby residence. When police got there, they discovered the naked man inside the house with blood and mud covering his entire body. The man began running towards deputies, defying their orders to stop, so they tased him and hauled him off to jail. The 41-year-old culprit, John Stephanopoulos, kept repeating that he, quote, used mushrooms with Jesus and that they were playing a virtual reality video game together, end quote. Police noticed that the front door had been pushed open, there were holes in the drywall, and blood was splattered on multiple walls and windows, while shattered glass covered the floor. Stephanopoulos was arrested and detained at the Daviess County Detention Center, where he was charged with indecent exposure, burglary, criminal mischief, resisting arrest, public intoxication, and menacing. Number 8, the Redneck Rave. In June 2021, a massive country music event in Kentucky got off to a rocky start when police discovered meth, marijuana, and an open bottle of alcohol in the first vehicle they stopped at a traffic checkpoint. One of the passengers in the vehicle also had 2 outstanding warrants. By the end of the 5-day bash, nicknamed the Redneck Rave, 1 man had been impaled, 1 woman had been strangled to the point of unconsciousness, and 1 throat had been slit. In total, Edmondson police detained 14 people and charged 40 others from 5 states. The event, organized by country musician Just in Time, brought tens of thousands of people, more than doubling the population of the unincorporated town of Ollie, which doesn't even have a stoplight. Promoters of the Redneck Rave boasted that they had sold more than 20,000 tickets. The event, billed as the, quote, largest country party you'll ever go to, included a demolition derby, goldfish racing, a full-scale football game, and, of course, a bunch of country music. The incidents at the Redneck Rave were disturbing, to say the least. 1 guy slashed a friend's throat and fled, a 29-year-old man choked a woman until she passed out, 1 person lost a finger, and another was impaled when he drove side by side over a 2 to 3 inch piece of wood that burst through the bottom of the recreational vehicle. As they transported him to the hospital, paramedics left a log inside of him. 6 festival goers face felony charges, and the sheriff's office filed around 30 drug and alcohol-related charges. 7. The Doggy Code. On December 23, 2019, a Kentucky man reported to police that his neighbor, Jonathan D. Watkins, had come to his house and asked for a cigarette. The neighbor told officers that Watkins was covered in blood when he came over, and when asked why there was blood all over him, Watkins replied that he had been skinning dogs. Later that day, the same neighbor claimed to have seen animal skins and dog carcasses on his doorstep. He stated that 2 of his dogs went missing at the time, and that he believed 2 dogs belonging to another neighbor were also missing. When an officer was alerted and inquired about the blood, Watkins answered that he was sewing himself a doggy coat. He then confessed to killing the dogs with a knife. Watkins was taken into custody and placed in the Floyd County Detention Center. He was charged with 4 counts of torturing a dog or cat resulting in serious physical injury or death. He faces a sentence of 1 to 5 years in prison. What would you do if your neighbor came to your house covered in blood? Tell us in the comments and hit that subscribe button while you're at it. Number 6, Family of Murderers. On April 22, 2016, in Waverly, Ohio, 8 members of the Roden family were murdered in 4 separate homes, many of them ambushed while they were sleeping. The Wagners, a southern Ohio family, was arrested and charged for the cold-blooded, quote, meticulously planned slayings. According to authorities, the killings were done execution style over a custody dispute regarding a young child. 4 members of the Wagner family, a father, George Billy III, Mother Angela and their 2 adult sons, George IV and Edward Jake, have been accused. The Wagners were arrested after being indicted on multiple charges, including aggravated murder charges with death penalty specifications. 2 other members of the family were also arrested on charges when they helped cover up the crime. Jake Wagner has a daughter with Hannah Roden, and the little girl was reportedly in the middle of a custody dispute between the 2 families. That child was staying with the Wagners the night of the murders. Hannah Roden was found shot to death in bed with her 5-day-old newborn next to her. According to what the investigators say, the Wagners spent months planning the crime. They used their relationship to study the habits and routines of their victims and knew the layouts of their homes along with where they slept. The Wagners left a trail of clues behind, including parts to build a silencer, forged documents, cameras and cell phones that were tampered with, along with all the lies they told. But the Wagners left Ohio and moved to Alaska, supposedly to operate heavy equipment or drive trucks, but it didn't take long for detectives to track them down. Following the murders, police also found evidence of drug sales and a marijuana grow operation at the Roden property, but custody over the little girl seems to be the motive. The Wagners are facing 8 counts of aggravated murder, along with a series of additional charges, including conspiracy, tampering with evidence, engaging in a pattern of corrupt activity, unlawful possession of a dangerous ordinance, forgery, aggravated burglary, and more. Jake Wagner is also charged with unlawful sexual conduct with a minor for having sexual contact with Hannah Roden when she was 15 and he was 20. Number 5. Snake breeders. A woman in Missouri shot and killed her husband at his snake breeding business. 29-year-old Lynlee Redneck was convicted in Boone County for the death of her husband, Ben Redneck, who bred rare and exotic snakes. Body cam footage from the scene in Redneck Reptiles shows police walking through the facility, which is filled with containers of large pythons and anacondas weighing more than 200 pounds or just about 90 kilograms. Sam Redneck, Ben's brother, said he called 911 after Lynlee discovered the body. Sam claims that at first he thought a snake had attacked his brother because Ben's skull appeared to be crushed and that he had 2 puncture wounds on his arm that looked like bite marks. However, when a coroner examined the body, he determined that the cause of death was murder. Ben was actually shot 8 times. Police initially believed that robbery was the motive, as Redneck's serpent collection was worth millions of dollars, but there were no snakes missing, so that theory was abandoned. In January 2020, police received information from Lynlee's ex-husband, Brandon Blackwell. Brandon told law enforcement that Lynlee had told him she wanted to kill Ben around the same time he was found dead. 3 years after the murder, Lynlee and her now ex-boyfriend Michael Humphrey were both charged with first-degree murder and armed criminal action. Police found detailed Facebook messages between the two, plotting the crime. Number 4. Alabama Hitman. In 2014, a man from Munford, Alabama wanted mercy after pleading guilty to trying to hire a Ku Klux Klan hitman to kill his black neighbor, Clifford Maurice Mosley, who he thought was sleeping with his wife. 30-year-old Alan Wayne Big Dad Morgan was described by attorneys as a drug-addicted veteran of more than 175 combat missions in Iraq. Morgan talked to an undercover FBI agent on the phone who identified himself as a KKK member. The men arranged to meet in an Oxford motel to discuss payment for the hit. In that phone conversation, Morgan used a racial slur to describe the man he wanted killed and bragged that he had just fired several shots toward the man to intimidate him. Morgan also described in extremely disturbing detail how he wanted the man to be, quote, hung from a tree like a deer and gutted, to have body parts cut off, and to, quote, die a slow, painful death. The defense says Morgan was suffering severe mental problems when he tried to arrange the hit and shouldn't spend more than 5 years in prison. But prosecutors are asking for a much lengthier sentence. The government says Morgan tried his best to hire a supposed KKK member to kill a neighbor he suspected of having an affair with his wife. Morgan was arrested and sentenced to 6 years in prison. Number 3. Murder Mattress. On September 1st, 2018, in a community in Texas, 67-year-old John Miller and his 31-year-old son Michael Miller got into an argument with their neighbor, 37-year-old Aaron Howard, in a shared alleyway about a box spring mattress. The disagreement got heated, with both parties screaming insults and threats, and at one point, Howard went inside and came back out with a baseball bat. Both father and son pulled out guns and fired, killing 37-year-old Aaron Howard. Abilene police arrested the Millers the same day shortly after the incident. They both got out on initial bonds of $25,000, causing widespread alarm and fear in the community. Thankfully, though, they were arrested again the following Friday afternoon after their bail was increased to $250,000 each by the district court. Number 2, moonshine operation. A couple who allegedly ran a 30-year-long bootleg liquor operation in Center County, Pennsylvania, were busted in February 2022 by state police after a year-long undercover investigation. 79-year-old Glenn and 65-year-old Barbara McCleister face misdemeanor charges of unlawful sales of liquor and manufacturing and selling liquor without a license. The investigation began in April 2021 when State Police Bureau of Liquor Control Enforcement received an anonymous online complaint stating that the couple were bootleggers. Between the months of April and January, an undercover officer made 4 separate purchases of the illegal moonshine from the couple, which they sold to him for $60 per gallon. Moonshine, sometimes called firewater, hooch, or white lightning, generally refers to an unaged whiskey that are clear in color and use a sugar and corn base. Some bootleggers earned serious reputations for making particularly potent moonshine, with alcohol contents reaching 85% or 190 proof. Phew! The officer said that when he first met with the McCleisters, they told him the recipe had been passed down to them from legendary moonshiner and former NASCAR driver Junior Johnson. The officer said that Barbara even showed them how pure the moonshine was by lighting it on fire and showing him that the flame was blue, not orange. She told him if it were orange, that would be evidence of impurities in the product, which would give those who drank it a bad hangover. Police got a search warrant for the couple's home and seized all the distilling products used in the underground operation. Number 1, crazy Georgia woman. A woman in Georgia that is clearly insane was recently arrested after she opened fire on a school bus full of children. Thankfully, nobody was actually harmed in the shooting, but the bus driver was injured by flying shards of glass when the bullets shattered the windows. Witnesses say they heard around a dozen shots. Police named the suspect as 57-year-old Celeste Michelle Saunders, but gave no reason as to why she would do such a horrible thing. Saunders was arrested and charged with 4 counts of cruelty to children in the first degree, 5 counts of aggravated assault, possession of a firearm during the commission of a certain felony, and unauthorized discharge of a firearm near a public street. Thanks for watching. Which one of these stories was the craziest to you? Tell us in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time on The Bad Badger.